In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make a basic house. So I'm going to start by moving over to the box and dragging a box onto the screen and putting it down somewhere in the middle. Now I want to resize this box. Now I could just get hold of the edges and drag it out, but to be more accurate, if I just go to this bottom right hand corner, and then I'll see it says 20 millimeters here. So what I can do is I can move over, I can click on here, click on the red dot, and then move over the bit that says 20 millimeters. And I want to make that 60 millimeters. I'll press enter, and I want to go over the 20, and I want to make that 40 millimeters. Okay, so what I want to do next is I want to make it 30 millimeters high. So if I click on this box here, there, the red one in the middle, there, then I can change the height. So if I click on it, go over to the height and change that to 30 and press enter. Okay, so I've done that first bit. So what I want to do is I want to copy this box. I want a second copy of this box that I'm going to use for the hole in the middle. So I'll click on this box, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Control on my keyboard, and I'm going to click on the D key for duplicate. So if I click and drag, now you'll see I've got two copies of this box. So I want to get hold of this second copy, and I don't want this to be solid, I want this to be a hole. So I'm going to go over to here and click on hole, and then I'm going to resize this so it's a little bit smaller than that first box. So if I click on this bottom corner here, instead of this being 60, I now want this to be 55 millimeters, and I want this, instead of being 40 for the width, sorry, instead of being 40, I think I'll have this being 35, and press enter. So that makes that a little bit smaller. The size can stay the same. Now what I want to do is make sure that this fits exactly inside this, so it hollows out the red box. So to do that, I need to select both of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click up here and not let go. I'm clicking and dragging over both boxes, and that's selected both boxes. And I'm going to go up to this tool here that's called the Align tool and click it. And then you'll see I get these dots around it. So what I want to do is I want to align it to the middle like this. So if I click that, and then I want to align it to the sides like this. Okay, so I've used the middle dot and the middle dot there, the middle dot on the length and the middle dot on the width to do that. Okay, so I've got both boxes where I want them. So I'm going to click somewhere else just to deselect them and drag round them again to reselect them. So I've clicked on the edge and dragged around both boxes, and I'm going to go up to group. So this puts them together and makes them one thing. So I can click on this button. I can click Control and G, but I'm just going to click there. Okay, so now you'll see that I've got one box and it's actually hollowed out the inside of the box. So now it's time to add a door. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and get a cube, but this time I'm going to use the whole cube rather than the full shape, and I'm going to put it on so that it's halfway through the wall there. So if you can't see it above like I'm doing, I've just right clicked and then carefully dragged it down like that, or I can go over here onto this cube in the top left and I can do it there, but I prefer to use the right mouse. So I've put it so that it's halfway through the wall, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the shape. So I can just go in and drag this just by looking at it myself, or I can click on the numbers and put something like 12 there. So I'm quite happy with that at the moment, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move that so that I can click up here and drag around both of them and select both things in there, and I'm going to turn that into a grouped shape. So if I move up here and click on group, then that means that the door has now come into place. So that's my door done, and the next thing that we'll do is we'll put. So now it's time for the roof. So if I move down here on my shapes, I can see I've got a roof shape here. So what I want to do is I want to drag the roof shape on, and you'll see that the roof shape is actually on the floor. It's at the wrong place. So I'm just going to move this up so that I can see the top of the building a bit better, and then I'm going to grab the cone above the roof. You see, if I move over and touch the cone, it changes from black to red. So now it's black, now it's red. So if I click and I don't let go, I can pick it up and I can move it up. So you can see it's 34 high, and then I can move it down. If you remember, this roof is 30 millimeters high, so I can actually move it up to where I want it to be and make sure it's 30 millimeters off the floor. Right, so I'm going to move over the roof now, and you'll see that it's in the wrong place. So I could just drag it and move it over the roof, but what I'm going to do first is I'm going to turn it by 90 degrees, because instead of the top of the roof going across, the apex going across like that and going backwards and forwards across the building vertically there, I want it to go horizontally across here. I want it to go lengthways rather than widthways. So you'll see this curvy double pointed arrow down here. If I move over that, then that goes red, and I'm just going to type in 90 degrees here and press enter, and that turns my roof. So now my roof is facing the other way. So I can move my roof backwards and forwards by clicking on it once and using the arrow keys. So the arrow keys will let me move the roof backwards and forwards, but the roof is I can move it backwards and forwards, but it's still the wrong size. Now what I can do to my roof is I can change the size of the roof to match the building. So if you remember, this building is 60 millimeters across. So if I go to this corner and click here, I could make it 60. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so that it overhangs. So I'm going to make it 80, so that if the rain comes down and you're standing right next to it, then the rain will actually drip right off the edge and down the walls. It will drip a little bit away from the walls on every side. And it was 40 deep over here, so I'm going to make it 50 deep. So 50 and enter. And you can see I've done that. Now I could move that backwards and forwards using the arrows, but I'm going to go back and use the align tool again to help us. So if I click up here and drag over both shapes, then I'm going to go to the align tool, which is up here, and click on it. And so if I click this tool, that means that they're both aligned lengthways, and then if I click this tool, then they're both aligned widthways. And there we have it. So that's how I've made my house. Now that is a really basic house. I'm just going to click up here on the name and call it Tim Basic, because that's me, Basic House 2. So I've done a Basic House 1, so I've just called it Basic House 2. So that's the end of that tutorial. So see if you can make the basic house just like me, or hopefully you followed along and you've already done that. So one of the next things you can do now is you could start a new project, and you can see all the different things you can add to it. So you can go into all these shapes and experiment with different things. So for example, if I just click on Tinkercad up at the top left hand corner and go back to my project page, then you should be able to see that I've got a more complex house that I've made here. So let me click on this and just go tinker this, and then I can open this and show you some of the things that you can do. So these are some of the more complex things you can do, although you can do your own things. Obviously you don't have to follow mine. So you can see I've put a chimney on there at the top. I've made a platform for the house at the bottom, and I've raised it up so that I could put some steps down there. I've put a garage down here at the side for a car to go in, and then I've put some space here where I've put some upstairs windows. I've forgotten to put any downstairs windows though, so maybe when you make your more complex house, you can do a better job than I did. I'm sure that you will.